Hi, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to our podcast of Power of Knowing Forum today. Today, we are on the 98th episode of podcast. Today's topic of discussion is stress and burnout prevention and cure of managers, executives, and directors. We have the honor of having Thomas, Rajiv on the discussion panel. Without further ado, let's bring them on board for the discussion. Rajiv, Sunil, welcome to our show.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Prem. Thank you.
Thank you, Prem. Nice to be here once again, and thanks for your introduction. All
Welcome.
good. So,
Yeah, over
welcome
to you.
everyone to today's LinkedIn live session. And today we're going to take a different look at stress and burnout and its prevention and cure for managers, executives, and directors. As professionals, we may or may not regard ourselves in high stress roles, but it's almost inevitable that from time to time, all of us will face stresses or overwhelm or overwork, or even perhaps a little bit further along the line to chronic fatigue or even burnout. These are things that we can all be prone to. Even if we're passionate about what we do, sometimes we can do too much for too long and crash and burn a little bit, which is always a bad look in my experience. These challenges can lead to underperformance, uh, criticism. As we underperform, as we get tired, we perform less well, and relentless pressure to achieve goals or targets, and then failure to do that, and too much time away from the family, which in itself takes its toll on all of us. And today, we're going to delve right deep into the actual causes of stress and burnout and traditional prevention and cure strategies and suggest to you that they're not the entire solution. There's another factor. I think prevention and cure strategies can, if you like, offset the effects of a stressful situation. But unless the other action is taken in the work, in the role, in your role itself, then you're going to be continually prone to these factors. And we're going to suggest a completely other way of dealing with some of this. Although some of the traditional strategies are really excellent always, but nonetheless, if you've got two great strategies and use them side by side, everything works better. And what our goal is to truly eliminate stress and give ourselves a high quality life and work life so that we feel rewarded, motivated, mobilized, and fulfilled by our daily lives. And what more could we ask, really? And there's no need for this kind of almost round robin burnout cycle from your professional life. So let's get started. Let's have some questions to open the story up.
Thank you, Thomas, for very uh, you know uh, completely sharing your thoughts on this subject. But you mentioned that stress and burnout are almost inevitable in these roles. Can you elaborate on the key causes of stress and burnout among managers, executives, and directors?
Yeah, sure. I think the key to it is the way the traditional management and executive roles and even the directors' roles are structured. It tends not to fit together very well as a suite of ideas in their life, in their family, and in their work. And uh, what we would offer in Regenesis is if you can, at the very beginning of your career, really intentionalize, be intentional about where you're going in your life, what your purpose is in your life, then that begins to set a tone as to how you're going to relate to your work, the kind of work you're going to seek out, and the kind of way that you're going to seek to do it. If you have a kind of fairly structured and well formed process for managing your work, then the whole life machine that you live in, your life, your family, your friends, your relaxation time, and your work time, They all fit together much better. And so does the forward path on which you're traveling. So let me just stop there and let's see where else the conversation can go. Prem, what do you think?
Thomas, I take your point there, but what happens is most of the time there are overlooked signs that indicate a manager or an executive is on a path of burnout. How do we do that process of checking, Thomas?
Sure, and I think this is one of the great overlooked pieces of the jigsaw puzzle is there is not enough well, I would say self-awareness. We're not self-aware enough to check ourselves first of all, and then our organizations are not very good at checking the state we're in. And the word that comes to mind for the signs is usually chaotic. When an individual is starting to burn out, their whole way of working starts to become slightly more messy and chaotic. And these are very clear signs. They forget to go to meetings, they forget to take actions, they forget to follow up on things, and people around them begin to notice. But so should the individual themselves. You know, once you become a manager, an executive, or a director, it's important that you find a way to stop. And we're going to talk about that in a little while. Is how do you find a way to take more notice of yourself? And obviously, there are some key techniques we can use to do that. But these are the signs. It's more chaos, more mess, more disorganization, probably lots of rushing around. These are the beginning signs. They're fine in a moment, maybe for a couple of hours or a day or so. But it's when those days start to merge together and it stays chaotic and super busy. People are always late, they're always rushing, they're always stressed. These are not good signs at all. And if they continue, for sure, they're going to lead to problems. So,
Uh, Yeah, Thomas, I think picking up this point further, I think the most of these issues crop up because of the personal and professional life imbalance which is created. I think we delved on this topic earlier as well. But in your experience, how do personal life and professional demands interact and exacerbate stress and burnout in high level roles? If you can throw some light on that.
yeah, sure. Quite simply, the role gets too big. And that's what creates the pressure and the stress. I invented a word there, stressor, and maybe that is right. It's stress and pressure all boiled into one thing. High workload and long hours, lack of control and autonomy, unclear job expectations, and also if there's dysfunctional workplace dynamics where not only is the manager or the executive or the director stressed, but their employees are stressed, the situation is stressed, and then finally there's a lack of social support for people. And these factors contribute significantly to the chronic stress that can ultimately lead to burnout.
How, Thomas, you dealt on an important point. How does lack of control and autonomy specifically contribute to increased stress levels in leadership roles, Thomas?
Okay, and this goes to if you don't know where you're going, you'll end up somewhere else.
Yeah.
And it's well known in the mental health field that lack of agency over one's own destiny, lack of control are primary stressors that are problematic for people. And if left in place for long periods of time, can cause all sorts of mental and emotional health issues that we don't want to have in the workplace. And as a manager, we need to do things that A, structure and organize our work, but also mobilize and motivate our team and keep them in good health too. Because one, if the team is in a dysfunctional state and the manager is stressed as a result because they don't know how to structure it and organize it, then it's not going to be long with it before they follow suit. So stressful situations create stressful people, quite simply.
Yeah, Thomas, you hit the nail on the head. Can you provide some real life examples of dysfunctional workplace dynamics that lead to stress and burnout?
Oh, it's all the stuff we know about. Either people talking too much and not doing the work. In other words, it becomes all a dysfunctional, gossipy environment would be an example. Also, the reverse is true, is people not communicating at all. They don't talk to one another. They don't like one another. There might be lots of arguments. There might be lots of things get left undone. There's just a whole raft of workplace dynamics. And maybe there's one particular individual who gets criticized by the others. Maybe there's some bullying or there's some poking fun. Even humor can be a problem if it's pointed at people. And these can be very, very unhelpful things and can lead, well, as we've seen with social media, if a person feels they're unpopular with their colleagues and peers, wow, it has a terrible effect on them as individuals. And it's the same with leaders. If leaders feel their team don't like them and their peers maybe don't respect them and their organization doesn't value their reputation and their whole kind of track record, wow, there's a bad backdrop for anybody to work in long term. So there's some very clear examples there.
Thomas, how can stress play a major role in the social way for getting it mitigated? Or I can put, what role does social support play in mitigating stress, and how can managers and executives support, cultivate their teams within for support?
Yeah, I'm afraid to say that although this helps a little, it doesn't help very much. It's a bit like papering over the cracks in a wall. It doesn't really solve the problem necessarily, but it does
Okay.
provide temporary relief until the wallpaper tears across the crack. And it's a bit the same in my experience with social support. If it doesn't really address what really needs attention, which is usually the structure of the manager's role, how they are structuring their team's work, how they have kind of organized themselves and their people to get done what needs to be done. Typical things would be things like very strong hierarchical separation, where there's a big separation between the role of top managers and everybody else. And so the people lower down, even some of the more junior managers, may not know what's really going on. They're just attempting to do what they think is the right job. And they may never have been sat down and properly helped to understand the uh, fundamental purpose or the vision of the future that they're trying to achieve through their work or how they're trying to satisfy clients. They might just be being told to do things in an autocratic way. And what they need is some team building, and then they need some proper one to one support, and they may even need help to be invited to innovate. So that this whole employee involvement and employee engagement is phenomenally important to uh, the mental health of employees and managers. So let's have a look, kind of moving on from that, at the traditional prevention strategies. To prevent stress and burnout, organizations have relied on things like work life balance initiatives, employee assistance programs, the APs. And while these strategies can provide temporary relief, they also often fall short in addressing the root cause of stress and burnout. So let's talk a little bit about some of these things and how they're used and where they don't quite hit the mark.
Okay, great. Thomas, this is, I think, very important aspect of this topic today. And I would like to know that why do you think work-life balance initiatives often fail to prevent burnout in the long term? Because people are trying to grapple with many strategies, but they are not actually working out, and still this problem remains. So, a very good solution from your side.
Sure, sure. Um, this is something, in fact, we talked about in a previous podcast, where if we go for a work versus life balance, if we put them on opposite ends of a balance scale, then they're going to be in opposition to one another. And it's better if you can find a way to integrate your work kind of plan and your life plan as one single intentional kind of combined piece that allows you to lead yourself as a manager and leader. And in fact, this provides a good role model for other. How do you integrate those two massive forces in your world, both of which are demanding time? Maybe you've got a young family or you've got elderly parents who need time and attention and help. And on the other side, you've got targets and you've got maybe quite demanding work schedules and maybe you've got travel to do and all those things. So they tend to fight. And if we temporarily put them in balance, what we've done is usually provided some relief by easing off a little bit in the work front so that there's more room to accommodate more life. But it's not really the cure. What we need is an all round solution that looks at the way we work together. So, do we align our people, uh, our employees, ourselves as managers? Do we do things to maximize flow? And do we do things which help with the growth and expansion of the business or the organization of which we're a part? So, yeah, I think that's why they often fail because we're tackling it from the wrong end. We're trying to put them in balance in opposition, and it doesn't work that way.
Then, how effective are these employee assistant programs, Thomas, in your experience, and what are the main limitations? Because we've seen organizations talking about more on we have a process, we have something that we benefit the employees benefit and stuff. That seems to be not working. And how? What is your input on these assistance programs that have been conducted in the organizations?
I think they're fine in the short term. If your organization is not very well structured, if your managers don't work in a way that makes the most of the resources and the people around them, and does that in a way that dovetails with those people's lives, then I think if an organization has been working in a somewhat dysfunctional or disorganized way, EAPs, employee assistance program, can help because people do get unwell, and if we can get them back to health and get them back into work, that's one way in which they help. But the other way they help is sometimes an organisation will employ a person, and they never explain clearly what they want them to do or how they want them to do it. So often, the EAP will be more of a training program to help them understand their role and how they do it well and how they do it more easily than anything else. So I think those two form the main limitations. And if I was using an EAP frequently in an organization, or if there was one being used, I would want to do some more profound organization development work. And of course, that's what the Regenesis program is all about. It's about helping managers and executives and directors structure their role and their work so that the organization works better, more effectively, more profitably, with better income streams, but also the management roles work better. The managers feel more successful and the employees feel more successful, as well as the organization actually being more successful. Everybody feels that and they feel like they enjoy coming to work a lot more.
Right. So, Thomas, this brings in an interesting aspect that, organizations have tried many things to manage this aspect. But what are the other traditional prevention strategies which organizations used, and why have they generally been unsuccessful in managing this one?
Okay. when it comes to curing stress and burnout, I guess the traditional approaches include things like stress management training. Yes, it's good. It's good to have techniques to keep yourself calm. And this is the more effective end. If it gives you a tool you can use if you get stressed momentarily, or there's a very stressful period coming, you know what to do to keep yourself calm and in a good space. Uh, you can also learn things like time management techniques so that you learn how to manage your calendar and your daily work program in a way that dovetails with other people so that the whole machine, the whole organizational machine, works much better. And then the big one, I guess, for me, is it's something I guess it's spread from the east to the west in many respects in terms of the culture. But really, it's mindfulness and meditation and relaxation practices. Now, obviously, for people that do this, these are very profound and powerful tools that are useful always. And, you know, they are all these are methods that alleviate symptoms, but mindfulness and meditation obviously is a way of life as well. And so it can go quite a lot further. Uh, but even that will not address the underlying issues. It may eventually, because it could be through meditation practice and working at becoming more wise and capable as an individual through one's meditation practice. You can fix it. But wouldn't it be great if you could mindfully install a known great process? So the example I like to give here is uh, we know when um, the light bulb was trying to be invented, Thomas Edison tried more than 10,000 wrong ways to invent the light bulb. Imagine how pleased when he started out on that journey if somebody had come to him and said, "Oh, by the way, this way, this one way, actually is the one you need. You could have it now at number five." They would have saved him 9,995 other wrong attempts. And it's a bit the same in management here. As a manager and executive and director, if alongside your effective mindfulness or time management techniques or stress management techniques, somebody could say, actually, here is a really good annual process that you can use to set yourself up wherever you go to be more effective, higher performing, higher earning, then would you take it or not? And I think that's what we've been trying to say to you as our listeners over the past weeks and months to say, look, come on down, come and join the Regenesis Network and just install these very simple, powerful structuring methods throughout the next year or so, and you'll find your life is transformed. And what's more, things, major stress moments in our lives, like often referred to as the midlife career crisis, it can also help you know exactly what to do at that moment. And typically, that moment is about moving from having a job as a junior manager to actually providing value as a more senior manager. And the Genesis is all about that shift and how that makes it much, much easier to negotiate and navigate these kind of big life transitions that we all undergo.
Thomas, I have a question from the audience. I'm bringing it up on the screen.
Sure.
Yeah, this is from
Okay.
Janmi Mahapatra. So many times a situation comes in an organization where stress and burnout are inevitable. How do we control it?
Absolutely. It's got to be tackled, in my opinion, at the management level. Absolutely essential. Because if the organization doesn't look after its people at times that are going to be difficult or stressful, then there's nothing really that the employees can do. So we have to look to the managers and the executives and the board and the directors to say, look, you need to see this coming. You need to help people be ready. Ideally, you've built a resilient, capable organization that can cope with whatever the stressor is, whether it's economic downturn or whether it's competitive pressure from another organization, or even whether it's the introduction of new technology.
Okay.
A key job of senior people is to read the road ahead. And Regenesis is all about how that is done well and how you then use the insights that you have about the road ahead to manage the workloads and the stress loads on the organization. You protect your people. Because if you don't look after your people, A, they can become unwell, even ill, and they'll be off for a long time, or they'll leave. And that can be worse for an organization where highly experienced members of staff or managers leave because they can't cope with the pressures they're being subjected to on a day-to-day, week-to-week basis.
Because with that, I have another pointer that I wanted to discuss about is there are a lot of things that happen, but can we explain how stress management training works and why it may not be enough to cure your burnout symptoms?
Because this is all about almost blaming it on the individual. The reason you're being stressed is because you're not coping and you're not managing your own stress. Whilst we can do that to a certain extent, there is a point where the environmental pressures and the lack of organization around us, it becomes more than we can do something about. It becomes more than we can offset with our stress management methods. And I think that's a biggest problem as
Okay.
to why they might not be enough to cure the burnout. Because if an organization is fundamentally set up in a messy, disorganized way,
Hmm.
then there's not a lot we can do to head it off at the pass. It's the managers and even the owners and top people uh, don't take care of the way the organization is formed and created and looked after, then I can see how there are strict limitations to stress management training.
Thank you, Thomas, for very, very insightful discussion. I think this topic is very, very important for all the managers. And if they just follow the Genesis, they can actually get answer to most of their issues. Uh, Often I see, Thomas, that time management techniques are widely promoted, but what are their benefits and limitation in addressing burnout? That's a very important aspect which I would like you to cover.
Sure, sure. I think time management is a really important skill set, and it's about prioritization. It's making sure you do the most important things first. There's also a sequence to things. So one of my favorite models, I think, is advocated by Stephen Covey, who wrote The Seven Habits of Highly Effective People, and that encourages people to look at things as either urgent or not urgent, or important and not important. So if you put those on a 2 by 2 matrix, what you end up with is 4 boxes. And what Stephen Covey advocates is to say, look, try not to do the not important but urgent. And these are the things that often are on fire right in front of you, but actually they don't really matter that much. And the far more important things behind them are the bigger fires. They really do need kind of attention now, but there's not very many of them. And so it's important to discern between the two. And so we know we have to deal with the really big fires, the important and urgent, but we can probably leave some of the noisy but inconsequential, not important, but not urgent and not important things till later. Our biggest box, and this is where repair of an organization takes place, is things which are not urgent but important. In other words, they're not urgent today, but they are important today. And they're things like building for the future, planning for the future, uh, seeing the road ahead, preparing the way for events that we know are going to happen in the future. If we don't do those, they're going to end up in the raging fires box, where we're all stressed and we're all with our nose pressed to the grindstone, as we say in the UK, where there's no time to prepare now because it's too late. We've left it and left it and left it. Whereas time management techniques would have had us deal with that and maybe eliminate some of the things we don't need to do. Brian Tracy says if we have priorities, we must also have posteriorities, things that we could leave till last or not do at all.
That was an important point there, because the pointer that we are trying to address is there are some of the important points, some are not important, and not all have to be taken care. But also, we are saying some pointers have to be taken care at a stage where we cannot leave them also, right? So some of the pointers where you think mindfulness and relaxation practices are gaining popularity to bring down the stress that is going around the people, how they help and what are their shortcomings in curing burnout, Thomas?
Yes, absolutely. In fact, I think mindfulness and relaxation practices are the embodiment of good stress management and good time management, because
Okay.
just being mindful and able to stop and think clearly at
Mm.
regular points during the day is a fantastic asset that people can use to help them in their daily lives. And as I say, if you can bond to that a really good structured process like Regenesis to manage how things are organized around you in the way that people are aligned, in the way that work is designed and processes are designed to optimize flow, uh, and in a way that prepare the organization to be ready for expansion in some ways or growth uh, as it becomes busier at certain times of year, or even just growing per se in the size of the organization. It's so much better if the managers themselves and the executives and the directors can have that power, because I think mindfulness and meditation really does give one a power to be a better person, to be a better manager. And if you add that to a known high quality framework, then you're obviously going to be head and shoulders above your peers in terms of your ability to do things well, to create more value, to contribute more to the organization, to get promoted, to increase your salary, to build on your career step by step in a way that's purely intentional to align with your lifetime. So I do think that they are the big guns. Of all the techniques, they're my favorites.
Okay.
Great. Thomas, how does Regenesis differ from traditional stress and burnout prevention and cure strategies? Because I think it's very important for us to understand and everybody to understand how we can actually give solution to people.
Sure. The Genesis is a structuring of your year. Uh, every month, you will get a simple, if you've heard it before, it's a reminder. If you're hearing it for the first time, you get a briefing, which will cause you to focus on a particular area for the coming months, just 1 month. And you do that at the same time as your colleagues, ideally. So your colleague managers will also have this particular area of focus. And let's say in 1 month, it could be team building throughout the whole organization. So it could be that what you do is you organize to pull your team into their regular meeting. And just in this month, you get them to refocus on and refresh their understanding of the purpose of your team and the organization of which they're a part. You get them to refocus on their vision for the future of their team and how that fits in with the vision for the wider organization. And you focus their attention on uh, how to identify the key areas of action that will enable them to maximize their success, maybe maximize their rewards, maybe set themselves in line for bonuses of some kind or other kind of recognition that is really nice for them. So there's just a simple example, and that's just 1 month. In another month, you may focus on something completely different, like the core processes of the organization, or you might focus on the skills and staff that are needed for the future, but not in a difficult, hard work way on top of everything else in an easy to do way where you do what's easily available to you each year. And it's amazing, it may only make 1 or 2% difference in each month. But if you think about that, if you add that up over the year, that's going to give you 12 or 24% more contribution, more productivity. And that is bound to be creating value for the organization. And ultimately, it's going to show up in your salary. It doesn't take long. And if you think about that over a decade, that's 20, that's 200%. So that's a lot. It really is a lot of growth in an organization. And so many organizations and managers and their teams stay undersized when they could actually be growing and they could win more market share. It's amazing. So I think that's a big way in which it differs. So yeah, this is extra to whatever else might have going on as well. So let's stop there.
Yeah, yeah. Lot, Thomas. I think some examples, if you can share on how aligning people can directly reduce stress and improve performance. Some insights or examples that make a difference where we can
Sure,
add them to
sure.
reduce the, yeah.
Be my pleasure. There's two aspects to this. There's what I call the inside outside.
Hmm.
So a really great manager will sit down with each of their employees and help them align their inner life goals with their outer work goals so that they can see how doing what they do each day at work helps contribute towards them achieving where they're going in life. And it might be as simple as I come to work to earn the money I need in a stable job to look after my family. And that for me is really, really important. I'm able to go home with a clear mind, knowing I've done a good job, and I can see how that keeps my salary really steady and regular. I've got security for long term because it's a good organization. So it's aligning that inner and outer. And the other place I think you start to get it is between people. So this is between team members. So if you do, we were talking about it just a moment ago, if you do your team building and then you do your one-to-ones effectively as a manager, the team is much more likely to collaborate and work together rather than compete and um, kind of take from one another's contribution and be looking to undercut. Some organizations can have a really negative and even quite nasty culture where people are clearly not working together when they could so easily do so. So these are two ways in where aligning people really help. And then the third way is to align your people with the future goals of the organization. And how you use this is to encourage innovation in the people and listening on the part of the managers. So they're listening for good ideas, and you have a really thought through process to easily encourage innovation, ideas, the creation of ideas, and to test them out quickly to find out whether they're just nice ideas, thank you very much, or whether, wow, this is a really great idea. Let's explore it a little bit further and see what we could do with this that might really help the organization and us as team members have a better time here. So, yeah, that's some ways that we can use aligning people.
So, Thomas, this is a very important aspect that how does maximizing flow contribute to reducing workload pressure and improving the work-life balance of people? Because often I have seen people are struggling with this, and so how do they manage this one?
The psychologist Piaget did a famous piece of work. It's largely been lost now. And he was looking at the way young children, I think they were age 11, thought. And he gave them a pole, a string, and a weight. And what they had was a pendulum. And what these children were asked to do is to uncover what made the difference to the swing, the frequency of the swing of the pendulum. And the key to this exercise is not to change all the variables at once: the height of the pole, the length of the string, and the weight on the end of the string. And most of the children would do. They wouldn't really break down the kind of the problem to a system level. And the key to the exercise is to move one variable at a time. So either the length of the string, or the height of the post, or the weight of the weight. And it's only by doing that you uncover what truly makes the difference. And what he found at age 11 was only 17% of children were able to isolate the variable. And he called these children systemic thinkers. And the rest he called complex thinkers. They couldn't break it down to a systemic level. What was interesting is he tried the same experiment again with people in their mid-30s. And what he found here was that only 34% of adults were able to do this. So we know in talking to people, or in working with adults even in a workplace, that it's likely that more than 60% of people will be complex thinkers. So unless we help them think things through, they will find the whole arena of work very confusing. And I think this is a really key area that needs some attention. So where maximizing flow comes in is in work process design, if you like, the design of work. Most people are process blind. In other words, they're not systems thinkers, they're complex thinkers. They're unable to see the underlying processes of work. And so in consequence, most organizations they never design their core processes. They never identify them, they never map them. And you can pay a lot of money to bring in a process consultant to help you look at your core processes into an organization or into a management team. Or you can just take some very simple processes which we have in Regenesis and use those to help you carefully design your processes to eliminate duplication and waste and kind of errors that have crept into the process. Why that makes a difference to work-life balance is because every time there's an error in a process, it wastes time or it wastes effort. And so many organizations have very wasteful processes. And employees become aware that maybe 40% of their time is being wasted because there are errors in the processes. So that's the best example I can give of how maximizing flow. So process management is one part. Making sure that money flows smoothly into our activities is another part. We've also got processes between different parts of the organization, if you like. The silos, they need to collaborate and they need to think about how they are connected. And then finally, we can think about how communication either supports or thwarts our flow of activity and our flow of productivity. All of these factors can create a problem. So, with
Thomas,
Genesis, go on.
yeah, Thomas, can you provide a brief overview of the 12 areas of covered by Regenesis, Thomas?
Yes, absolutely. In fact, I was just about to do that very thing. So, very prescient of you, Prem,
Yeah.
to see the road ahead there. Yeah, sure. So, in the area aligned people, we always start with individual goals. So, what are your intentions for your life work plan? Most people, only 3% of people actually have done that and got it written down. So we know 97%, fully 97% of people we work with won't have a really coherent life work plan. And the few that have that life work plan will outperform their peers, usually by 10 times or more. So their salary is always much greater, their promotions are much more frequent, and they will end up by the end of their lives in a completely different place. So intentionalize. Then once we've got that piece of work done, we then say, right, let's build some teams. You're here in the organization to deal for a purpose. So what is that? And what's the vision? What we would like you to be able to achieve. So mission, which is purpose, vision, which is the future, values, how we work together here, and vital few, the key areas of action. That becomes the number 2, strategize. Number 3, make sure people are supported in what they do. So this is individualize. And then number 4 is innovatize. So in other words, encourage innovation, encourage people to use their creativity. Everybody is capable of virtually unlimited creativity and development. And that comes from one of the biggest thinkers in the field himself, Tony Bajaj, who invented the whole area of mind mapping. So that's all aligned flow. Those 4 are aligned people. So that was intentionalize, strategize, individualize, and energize. The second 4 are all about process, maximizing flow. And these are going to be, first of all, systematize. So you can plan your processes so they work as a system. Second, financialize or monetize, and make sure money flows in a way that's consistent and coherent with process. Very often, financial decisions will get separated from the operational requirements of an organization. So that can be a problem. So that's 2 of them. Number 3 then is synchronize, and this is helping people work together. And then finally, we're going to look at the whole area of how words and kind of actions are properly aligned. So that's the whole maximize flow area. And then finally, we're going to check the health of the enterprise. So we're going to look at that. We're going to move on then to try and read the future, and we're going to take a really good look at the potential we have for having the skills and the people in place in the future. So where are we going to get them from? How will we create the skills? Will we build the people from within, or will we recruit people from without? So that's potentialize. And finally, we're going to, just before we attempt to grow big time, we're going to make sure all our, this is called fractalize, slightly more complex, but there are 3 main areas of deep values, which if they're not sorted out, then the behaviors that flow throughout the organization will not properly dovetail to enable growth to take place successfully. So that fractalize moment needs a bit more conversation, which we do in the Genesis. And then finally is the growth itself. Will you grow structurally or organically? And it's almost always better to grow organically. In other words, to grow from within than it is to acquire or merge with another organization. So those are the main 12 areas that we look at in the Genesis. And they make a huge difference to the life of people at work.
Thank you, Thomas, for taking us through this entire gamut of 12 areas, which are key for every manager and every director or every board member. And but I am intrigued to know that how do these 12 areas interconnect to create a holistic approach to prevent and curing stress and burnout? That is the topic of today. So if you can throw some light on that.
I think the real key is in the first 4, then everything that you would expect to take good pastoral care of your employees is built in. It's built into those first 3 bits, which is helping them plan or make their work and life plan a coherent work and life plan. That makes an enormous difference to people's confidence and competence in their ability to manage their life work path, as it were. And then once you work together more collaboratively, so you mobilize and motivate your team as a team and help them work together collaboratively, then that's obviously a much better health model. And then The third layer is we put in the individualized. We make sure every single employee has their supervisor or manager in a sit down with them at least once a month, where they can have a brief chat about how things are going, how they're feeling, and if there are problems, they can be picked up in a further stage and action taken to provide better answers. And the Regenesis program obviously sets all of this up. So it's built in. So curing stress and burnout, stress are largely prevented by these actions. But also, if there are problems, we pick them up very early. And we also allow people to be creative and have more control over their destiny. All of those things are good mental health and anti-stress indicators where people are much more involved in the futures that they are moving into.
Thomas, what are the immediate benefits that managers, executive directors expect or to see when they start implementing readiness?
The biggest things are obviously you're effectively building additional extra recurring revenue for your organization. And if you help your organization make better results, make more money, then you too are going to be in a position where you can much more strongly uh, put yourself in a position where you can make more money, where you can increase your salary, because obviously you're contributing more, your people are contributing more. So hopefully this can be good for everybody. And that's why we do it. It's a much healthier model. So that's the immediate benefits. And the other benefits that are coming from the Genesis that we see over and over again is to make better use of time. Um, so obviously, if you can share the work out and with your colleagues and your team members, then it takes a lot of pressure off you. If there are less faults and less duplications of efforts and less problems, then that's less pressure on you. So all round, it makes life better for managers, executives, and directors. And it's so easy to join. And we'll be talking about this in a little bit, which is how you can join the Regenesis network. It's a very simple process. Just join us, and we will help you get this organised for yourselves. So, I guess in conclusion, what I'd like to say about stress and burnout is we hope you gain some valuable insights here. You can't just, it's a bit like taking medicine. If you don't look after your health, you can't expect to be well. Yes, you can take lots of medicines to cure your illnesses that have arisen from you not taking care of your body much. But it's not the same as living a healthy lifestyle and keeping yourself well hydrated, with great nutrition, and you look after your fitness. It's a much better idea than letting your body get out of sorts and unwell. And it's the same with an organization. If we can prevent it getting sick in the first place, then that's obviously much better for everyone. Yeah, so that's where I would say some of this is leading, is take care of your organization, take care of your management role, and take care of your team. And the rest, hopefully, is a lot easier.
Thank you, Thomas, for a very, very enlightening session. And, thanks all the viewers for participating. I'm sure you must have got very good tips on how to manage the stress and burnout. And if you want to know more, if you want to actually practice what we are preaching here, please do get in touch with any of us. We can lead you to our structured program of Regenesis, and we can make sure that your overall situation improves, and the situation of your people in the company, your people in the team, all of them, they feel good about making sure that they are having a stress-free work environment. So until next time, take care and stay balanced. That is the way I would like to end it. Over to you, Prem.
Thank you, Rajiv and Thomas. Remember to take a small step every day towards better stress management. and overall well-being. And most important is join us as a Genesis network. Join the links below that you see. Use the code Life25 to get a monthly membership, permanent membership. Look, we are looking forward from your side. Stay safe and healthy. Bye for now. With this, we would like to conclude the show. We are streaming live on to from LinkedIn to YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. Our episodes are available for future viewing on YouTube, and the channel is at Power of Knowing Forum, so you can have a review on those things and let us know your feedback to improve the program better. Thank you for now.
Okay,
Thank
that's
you.
great. Thank you,
Thanks,
everybody.
everyone. Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.